My name is Madeline Ross. You might have heard it before, not because I'm famous, but because my sister built a $30 million beauty empire using my signature, without my permission, while I was 8 months pregnant and watching my world fall apart. I used to run a venture capital fund. I used to believe in family above everything. I used to think betrayal was something that happened in Shakespeare plays, not in the kitchen where you once taught your little sister how to balance a checkbook. Now I'm 36, a single mother to the most perceptive 10-year-old on the planet, and about to tell you about the wedding that changed everything. Not because I found love there, but because I finally found my voice. It started with an invitation that was never really meant for me. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, sandwiched between a grocery store circular and a credit card offer. My name, Madeline Ross, was misspelled as Madeline Rose, the ink smudged where rain had kissed the cheap paper. I stood in my kitchen, coffee growing cold in my hand, staring at what should have been a moment of joy. Lauren's wedding invitation. My sister, the one with the clean beauty empire and the $1 million smile, had sent me the kind of invitation you'd use for a distant cousin you hoped wouldn't show up. No inner envelope, no tissue paper, no handwritten note. Just a mass-produced card with our mother's address crossed out and mine scribbled in blue pen. "Mom?" Toby's voice pulled me back. My 10-year-old son stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, those perceptive brown eyes studying my face. "You okay?" "Just mail," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. I'd gotten good at that, painting sunshine over storm clouds. 5 years of single motherhood teaches you that skill. He patted closer, reading over my shoulder. "Aunt Lauren's getting married? Cool. Can I wear my Iron Man tie?" My heart twisted. He still called her Aunt Lauren with such warmth, despite the fact that she'd missed his last 3 birthdays. Despite the fact that she'd taken $300,000 from my venture capital fund with promises of quick returns and revolutionary products. That money had launched her empire. My name had never appeared in her origin story. "We'll see," I said, ruffling his hair. "Go grab your lunch. Mrs. Peterson doesn't like it when you're late." After he left, I sat at our small dining table, the one I'd bought secondhand when I'd downsized our life, and really looked at the invitation. Charleston, South Carolina. The Magnolia Grand Hotel. Black tie required. The date was circled in gold, 2 months away. I thought about calling Mom, asking if she'd pushed for my invitation, but I already knew the answer. Everything in our family ran through Lauren now. Lauren the success story. Lauren the entrepreneur. Lauren who'd turned a small family loan into a beauty empire, while I'd thrown away my potential to raise my son alone after his father decided fatherhood wasn't in his 5-year plan. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Heard Elle finally sent your invite. Surprised she didn't just Facebook message you, LOL. See you there? Marcus." Marcus. Lauren's ex-boyfriend from college, now a photographer who'd shot some of her early campaigns. One of the few people who remembered when we were just sisters, not success story and cautionary tale. I typed back, thinking about it. His response was immediate. "She owes you more than you know. Would be good for people to remember that." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I opened my laptop and booked 2 flights to Charleston. The Magnolia Grand Hotel rose from Bay Street like a wedding cake, all white columns and genteel southern charm. Toby pressed his nose against our rental car window, counting balconies. "Mom, this place is huge. Is Aunt Lauren paying for our room too?" "We're staying somewhere else," I said carefully, pulling into the circular drive. I'd booked a modest hotel 10 minutes away. The Magnolia Grand was $400 a night, minimum. A valet approached, then paused, his eyes scanning our simple rental sedan. His gaze lingered on my dress, a 3-year-old navy sheath I'd had tailored when I could still afford such things, and Toby's department store blazer. "Deliveries are around back," he said, already turning away. "We're guests," I said firmly, "for the Ross Manning wedding." His eyebrows rose. "Oh, of course. Do you have your invitation?" I'd never been asked for an invitation at a family wedding before. I pulled out the water-stained envelope, watched his face shift from skepticism to poorly concealed amusement. "Right through the main doors. The Palmetto Ballroom is to your left. Cocktails have already started." Inside, the lobby overwhelmed with its casual opulence. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows on marble floors. Guests glided past in designer gowns and custom tuxedos, their laughter tinkling like champagne flutes. Madeline? A woman with a clipboard materialized, her smile professional but cool. We've been looking for you. There's been a small mix-up with the seating arrangements. A mix-up? I kept my voice level, aware of Toby watching. Space constraints, she said smoothly. We've set up a lovely table for you in the azalea room, much more intimate. Your son will be more comfortable there. The azalea room, I discovered, was adjacent to the kitchen. Our lovely table sat between the service door and a portable bar, the air thick with the smell of cooking oil and the constant swing of waitstaff. 3 other tables occupied the space, elderly relatives who couldn't hear well, plus ones no one knew what to do with, and us. Mom, Toby whispered, his earlier excitement dimming. Are we not real guests? The question hung between us like a blade. At 10, he was old enough to recognize exclusion, young enough to wonder if it was his fault. We're exactly where we're supposed to be, I told him, squeezing his shoulder. Sometimes being family means sitting at the complicated tables, but my hands shook as I smoothed my dress. Through the doorway, I could see the main ballroom, a fairyland of twinkling lights and orchid centerpieces. Lauren's laugh carried over the music, bright and careless. A server bumped our table, sending water across the white tablecloth. Sorry, she muttered, not stopping to help. This was my place in my sister's new world. Not erased entirely, that would cause talk, but relegated to the margins, close enough to claim I'd been included, far enough away that I couldn't spoil the picture. Can we go home? Toby asked quietly. I thought about it. Thought about walking out, driving back to the airport, pretending this never happened. But Marcus's text echoed in my mind. She owes you more than you know. Not yet, I said. We came here for a reason. I just wasn't sure what that reason was anymore. The clink of silverware on crystals silenced the room. Lauren stood at the microphone, radiant in a dress that probably cost more than my car. Her fiancé, Charles, tech CEO, old money family, perfect teeth, beamed beside her. I want to thank everyone for being here, Lauren began, her voice carrying that practiced warmth she'd perfected for Instagram Lives. For supporting our journey, our love story, her eyes found mine across the room. Our success. The pause was deliberate. I felt it like a slap. You know, she continued, smile widening. Family is so important. The people who stand by you, who support your dreams, who don't. Another pause, another look. Abandon ship when things get difficult. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Charles shifted uncomfortably. Some people, Lauren said, voice dropping to a stage whisper that somehow carried perfectly, come here today having forgotten what family means, having chosen personal ambition over blood, having left others to pick up the pieces of their failed ventures. The spotlight, was it accidental, swept across our exile table. I felt 200 eyes turn, saw phones lift discreetly to capture the moment. Beside me, Toby had gone rigid. But we don't dwell on the past, Lauren said brightly. We celebrate the future, the family we choose, the success we build, together. Applause erupted. Lauren curtsied playfully, but her eyes remained locked on mine. The message was clear. You are here on sufferance. Remember your place. Mom? Toby's voice was barely a whisper. I looked down to see tears threatening to spill. Why is Aunt Lauren being mean? The question broke something in me. Not because of what Lauren had done to me. I'd learned to carry that weight. But because she'd done it in front of my son. Because she'd made him collateral damage in whatever war she thought we were fighting. Sometimes people hurt others when they're scared, I said quietly. What's she scared of? I looked at my sister, glowing in her designer dress, surrounded by admirers, living the life built on foundations she'd never acknowledged. The truth, I said. A server appeared at our table. Mrs. Ross, there's a gift table in the main ballroom. Ms. Lauren asked specifically that you place yours there for the presentation. The presentation. Of course. Lauren would make a show of opening select gifts, probably live streaming for her followers. I looked at the wrapped box beside my chair, an album I'd spent weeks assembling. Inside were the handwritten letters Lauren had sent me when she was starting out. Her business plans sketched on napkins, photos of us at the tiny office space I'd helped her rent with my own credit, Her origin story, the real one? Stay here, I told Toby. I'll be right back. I picked up the album and walked through the service area into the main ballroom. The crowd parted unconsciously. The help was invisible here. I placed the album on the gift table, between a Tiffany box and what looked like keys to something expensive. As I turned to leave, Marcus appeared at my elbow. That was brutal, he said quietly. Even for her. She's scared. I repeated my words to Toby. She should be. He glanced around, then leaned closer. Check your email tonight. Some of us remember who really built this empire. Before I could ask what he meant, the music swelled. Time for the father-daughter dance. I walked back to my exile, to my son, to our table that smelled like kitchen grease and looked out at someone else's fairy tale. And now, Lauren announced, champagne flute in hand, Charles insists we open some gifts. You all are too generous. The live stream started immediately. I watched on my phone, one arm around Toby, as Lauren performed for her audience. Each gift was met with practiced delight. Designer bags, crystal, checks discreetly palmed to Charles. Then she reached for my album. Oh, this one's special, she said, reading the tag. Her smile flickered. From my sister. The room quieted. Family drama was better than champagne at events like these. She unwrapped it slowly, her face a mask of anticipation for the cameras. But when she opened the album, saw her own handwriting, her own dreams laid bare, the mask slipped. What is this? She said, forgetting to perform. Is this supposed to be funny? She held up a page, her business plan, sketched out in purple ink. At the bottom, in her younger self's hope-filled script, Thank you, Maddie, for believing in me when no one else would. I'll pay you back triple, I promise. This is... She scrambled for spin. This is ancient history, before I knew what I was doing, before the real investors. That's sweet, someone called out. Your sister kept all that. But Lauren wasn't finding it sweet. It's emotional manipulation, she said, voice rising, trying to take credit for... Credit? The word escaped before I could stop it. I was standing, though I didn't remember rising. I never asked for credit, Lauren. The live stream viewers were going wild. I could see comments flying past on phones around the room. Charles tried to take the microphone, but Lauren yanked it back. You left, she spat. You left the business, left everything to play house with some guy who didn't even stick around. I left, I said clearly, because you forged my signature on loan documents. Because you used my name to secure funding I never approved. Because when I found out, you cried and begged and promised to make it right. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The wedding coordinator frantically gestured to cut the live stream, but the damage was done. You can't prove anything, Lauren said, but her voice wavered. I didn't come here to prove anything, I said. I came because despite everything, you're still my sister. That album? It wasn't manipulation. It was me trying to remind you who we used to be. Before the money, before the lies. When we were just two girls with big dreams and bigger hearts. Toby stood beside me, slipping his small hand into mine. The gesture gave me strength. But you're right, I continued. I can't prove anything. Just like you can't prove you built this empire alone. We both know the truth. The question is, can you live with it? I turned to leave, but Lauren's voice, stripped of its polish, stopped me. Maddie, wait! But Charles had finally wrestled the microphone away. The band struck up urgently. The coordinator ushered us toward the exit with professional efficiency. The last thing I saw was Lauren's face, makeup running, staring at the album in her hands like it might bite her. Back in our hotel room, Toby was quiet. He'd changed into pajamas, but sat on the bed, knees drawn up, processing the evening. I'm sorry you had to see that, I said. Is Aunt Lauren going to jail? The question startled me. What? No, honey, why would you think that? You said she forged stuff. That's illegal, right? We learned about it in social studies. My brilliant, perceptive boy. I sat beside him, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes families handle things privately. It's complicated. But she stole from you. She borrowed without asking, I corrected gently, though the distinction felt flimsy even to me. Same thing, Toby said firmly. If I took Jimmy's Xbox without asking and said I was just borrowing it, I'd still get in trouble. From the mouths of babes, my phone buzzed, Marcus's email. I opened it expecting photos, maybe some gossip from the reception we'd been ejected from. Instead, I found documents. loan applications with my signature, except the handwriting analysis proved it wasn't mine. Bank transfers traced through shell companies, a paper trail Lauren had been careless about covering because she'd never imagined anyone would look. And at the bottom, a note from Marcus. Some of us never forgot who really started the company. Lauren's investors might be interested to know their golden girl built her empire on fraud. Your call what to do with this. I stared at the evidence I'd convinced myself didn't matter anymore. 5 years of telling myself to move on, to focus on Toby, to let Lauren have her success, but seeing it laid out so starkly. Mom? Toby peered at my phone. What's that? Grown-up stuff, I said, locking the screen. Are you going to get your money back? I don't know. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you should. It's not about being mean. It's about being fair. That's what you always tell me. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. I opened my laptop and began composing an email to my old lawyer. Not for revenge. Not to destroy Lauren's wedding night. That ship had sailed. But because my son was right. Fair was fair. And it was time for Lauren to learn what that meant. The call came at 7 a.m. Not from Lauren, from Charles. Madeline, we need to talk. Can you meet me in the hotel restaurant? Just you. I left Toby with room service and cartoons, making my way back to the Magnolia Grand. The morning after feeling hung over the place, wilted flowers, staff vacuuming glitter, the magic dissolved in daylight. Charles sat alone in the restaurant, still in his tuxedo shirt, bow tie undone. He looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. Coffee? He offered. I sat. Waited. I saw the live stream comments, he said finally. Thousands of them. People tagging the SEC, the Better Business Bureau, asking about fraud allegations. He rubbed his face. Then my lawyer called, said you'd filed something? Just inquiries, I said carefully, about signatures that aren't mine. Lauren says it's a misunderstanding. Lauren says a lot of things. He laughed bitterly. Yeah, I'm learning that. He pushed a tablet across the table. This is her company's real structure. I had my team dig into it last night. Your name is all over the founding documents. I looked at the corporate filings. There I was, listed as co-founder, my signature on documents I'd never seen, my credit used for loans I'd never approved. She built the entire foundation on identity theft, Charles said quietly. Your identity. You didn't know? I thought... He shook his head. I thought you were the deadbeat sister who'd abandoned her. That's the story she tells. Poor Lauren building an empire while her older sister chose mediocrity. I chose my son, I said simply. Yeah. He studied me. She's terrified, you know. Spent all night trying to convince me this was your fault. That you're jealous, vindictive, trying to destroy her happiness. I'm not trying to destroy anything. No, he agreed. You're not. Which makes this worse somehow. He pulled out his phone, showed me a message. The wedding planner, asking if we want to proceed with today's brunch. The gossip is already spreading. 3 investors have called wanting meetings. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. This wasn't supposed to happen at your wedding. Our wedding, he corrected. Though I'm not sure there's an hour anymore. He stood, pulled out an envelope. This is a check. What she owes you plus interest. It won't fix everything, but it's a start. I stared at the number, more zeros than I'd seen in years. I can't accept this from you. It's from the company. Consider it a settlement. Sign the papers my lawyer sends, and your name comes off everything. Clean break. And Lauren? His face hardened. Lauren can explain to the investors why their golden girl has been cooking the books since day one. I protect my family's reputation. That's it. He left me sitting there with a check that could change everything and a hollow feeling in my chest. This wasn't victory. It was just sad. My phone rang. Lauren. I let it go to voicemail. The brunch was in the same ballroom, now stripped of its evening glamour. Half the guests had already left, scared off by the viral drama. The ones who remained whispered behind mimosas and elaborate fruit displays. I hadn't planned to attend, but Charles had texted, "She needs to see you there, to know she can't run from this." So I stood in the doorway with Toby, watching Lauren work the room with increasingly desperate charm. Her smile was too bright, her laugh too sharp. She looked like a woman drowning in public. Then she saw us. The transformation was instant. The mask dropped, replaced by something raw and angry. She stormed over, designer heels clicking on marble. "Happy now?" she hissed. "You've ruined everything. My wedding, my business, my life." Lauren, no! Her voice carried, heads turning. You don't get to play victim. You abandoned me, left me to figure everything out alone. Do you know how hard it was? I was pregnant, I said quietly. My partner had just left. I needed to focus on yourself, like always. She was crying now, mascara running in expensive rivers. Perfect Maddie with her perfect ethics and her perfect— I was never perfect, I interrupted. I was just your sister, the one who co-signed your first lease, who gave you my savings, who believed in you. Then why did you leave? The question hung between us, years of hurt condensed into 4 words. Because you'd already left, I said. The minute you forged my name, you chose the company over us. I just made it official. Lauren crumpled. Actually crumpled. Designer dress pooling on the floor as she sank down. The room watched in horrified fascination as the beauty mogul became just a woman in an expensive dress, crying on marble. I was so scared, she whispered. The loan was due, and investors were backing out, and I thought if I could just get through that month, I'd fix everything. But you didn't. No. She looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw my little sister. Not the CEO, not the influencer, just Lauren. I didn't. And then it was too late. You were gone, and I was too proud to admit what I'd done. Toby tugged my hand. When I looked down, he whispered, "She's really sorry, Mom." Kids. They see through everything. I helped Lauren to her feet, held her while she shook. Around us, phones captured every second, but I didn't care anymore. It's not okay, I told her. What you did, it's not okay. I know. But you're still my sister. She sobbed harder. Charles appeared, wrapping a jacket around her shoulders, meeting my eyes over her head. Thank you, he mouthed. The check? I asked him quietly. Still yours, she agrees. Lauren nodded against my shoulder. It's yours. It was always yours. The wedding coordinator approached nervously. Should we continue with brunch? No, Charles said firmly. We're done here. As the staff began dispersing the remaining guests, I held my sister while she fell apart. Toby stood guard, glaring at anyone who tried to photograph us. This wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever completely. But it was a start. 6 months later, I stood in my new office. Nothing fancy, just a small space in a building with good light and reasonable rent. Ross Ventures 2.0, the frosted glass read. Below it, smaller, ethical investments for women entrepreneurs. The settlement had been enough to restart. Not lavishly, but thoughtfully. Carefully. The way I should have done it the first time. Mom! Toby burst through the door, backpack bouncing. Guess what? I got selected for the coding competition. That's amazing. I hugged him tight, his excitement infectious. Can I use the conference room to practice? Of course. I watched him set up his laptop, proud of the young man he was becoming. The last 6 months had been hard on him, the viral videos, the kids at school asking questions, but he'd handled it with more grace than most adults. My phone buzzed. Lauren. We texted now. Carefully. Small things. Happy birthday. Thinking of you. Saw your announcement about the new fund. She'd stepped down as CEO, Charles helping her transition to a consulting role while they restructured the company. They'd postponed the wedding indefinitely. Saw the article about your new fund. Proud of you. I stared at the words, then typed back. Thanks. How's therapy? Hard. Good, both. Yeah, I know the feeling. Mom wants us all for Thanksgiving. I hesitated. We'd been orbiting each other for months, neither ready to fully engage. But Thanksgiving? We'll see. That's not a no. No, it's not. A knock on my door interrupted. A young woman stood there, nervous but determined, clutching a business plan. Ms. Ross, I'm Sarah Chen. I have an appointment? Of course, come in. As she settled across from me, spreading out her plans for a sustainable fashion line, I felt something settle in my chest. This was what I was meant to do. Not revenge, not bitterness, just this. Helping other women avoid the mistakes we'd made. Before we start, Sarah said, I wanted to say, I saw what happened with your sister. It was brave standing up like that. It wasn't brave, I said honestly. It was just necessary. Still, she straightened her shoulders. It made me realize I needed to do this right. Clean, honest, even if it takes longer. It usually does take longer, I admitted, but it lasts. My phone lit up with another text from Lauren. I'm seeing Mom Friday. She says you might come for dinner next week. I looked at Sarah's eager face, at Toby in the conference room building something I couldn't understand but loved watching him create, at this small office that represented so much more than square footage. Then I typed, "Tuesday works, I'll bring dessert." Really? Really? But I'm not making the lemon bars. You know I can't cook. Some things never change. Then, after a pause, thank God for that, I put the phone aside and focused on Sarah. "So tell me about your vision." As she talked, animated and passionate, I thought about vision. How it could blur, how it could clear, how sometimes you had to lose everything to see what really mattered. The sun set over the city, painting my small office gold. Toby's laughter drifted from the conference room. Sarah's dreams spread across my desk in careful charts and hopeful projections. This wasn't the life I'd planned. It was smaller, quieter, built on harder truths. It was also real, and mine, and enough. My phone buzzed once more. A photo from Mom, an old one, Lauren and me as kids, covered in finger paint and grinning. Before beauty empires and broken trust, when we were just sisters. "Found this cleaning out the attic, remember?" I did remember, and maybe finally that was enough too. The office lights came on automatically as darkness fell. Sarah was still talking, Toby still coding, the city still spinning outside our window. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Next week would bring dinner with ghosts and possibilities. Next month would bring the first round of funding decisions for the new venture. But tonight, in this small, honest space, surrounded by hope and hard work and the kind of dreams that didn't need to steal from anyone else to survive, I was exactly where I needed to be. "Mom?" Toby called. "Can Sarah see my app? I think it could help with her inventory tracking." I smiled. "Ask her." And as they bent their heads together, my son and this young entrepreneur building something new, I thought about legacy, about what we pass on, about what we choose to leave behind. Lauren had built an empire on sand and secrets. I was building something smaller on stone. Time would tell which one would last, but I knew which one would let me sleep at night. And in the end, that was the only success that mattered. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, full of other people's dreams and dramas. Inside, we worked until late, 3 generations of hope in one small room, writing better stories than the ones we'd inherited. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours, and it was true. And that, I was learning, was everything.